Hey, what's up, everybody? Today, I want to explain to you why there is no difference between a Roth retirement account and a traditional retirement account. There's no gimmick or trick here, it's simply the truth. Yes, the accounts do have some differences, but when I say there is no difference, I'm referring to the impact on the amount of money in your pocket at the end of the day. Neither account puts more money in your pocket, and I'll make it simple to see that in this video. My name is Brad. I'm with Wooten CPA. Our goal is to bring peace to your tax and financial responsibilities. One of the ways we do that is through these videos. Please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel so that you're notified when new videos come out. Thanks for watching. How many videos are out there telling you that Roth accounts are the right move for everyone? Or at the very least, they're implying it. First of all, if there's any video saying any strategy is something everyone needs to implement today, then that video is probably worthless. No piece of advice is right for every person in every situation. You need an advisor who will consider your specific situation and give custom advice based on that. First, we need to briefly discuss the difference between a Roth retirement account and a traditional retirement account. There are many types of accounts, including 401k, 403b, SEP, Simple, IRA, etc. Any of these can have a Roth or a traditional component or character. So it doesn't matter which type of account we talk about specifically, because we're focusing on the character of the money within any of these types of retirement accounts. Traditional contributions are pre-tax. They are either withheld from your paycheck and they never get included in your reportable income, like with a 401k contribution, or they are in your reportable income and then they get subtracted out when you do your tax return, like a contribution to a traditional IRA. Roth contributions, on the other hand, are after tax. They can be withheld from your paycheck, but are still included in your reportable income, like with a Roth 401k contribution, or they're included in your reportable income, and then when you contribute them into a Roth IRA, you cannot subtract them out when you do your tax return, so they remain in your reportable taxable income. This means that traditional contributions are pre-tax, which means you don't pay any tax on that contribution today. And Roth contributions are after tax, which means you pay tax today on the money that goes into the account. There are different qualifications and limits with each type of account, but we don't need to discuss those differences for the purposes of this video. Here's a common hypothetical that is proposed to convince people that Roth is the way to go. If I put down a $5 bill, a $10 bill, and a $20 bill, and ask you which one you want to pay taxes on, I guarantee you're going to choose the $5 bill. You want to pay less in tax, and you'll pay less in tax on the $5 bill, therefore, you're going to choose that one. And that's the simple picture that many people paint when it comes to Roth. But this is a lot more complex than that. If you put $5 into a Roth today, and it grows to $20, you paid tax already on the $5 and you won't owe any tax on the $20. However, when you put $5 into a traditional retirement account, then that was pre-tax money that you didn't pay any tax on, and when it grows to $20, you'll pay tax on the $20. It's true. You're going to pay tax on a higher dollar amount, and you'll pay more dollars in tax. However, paying less in tax is not, or it shouldn't be, your ultimate goal. Your ultimate goal should be to maximize the amount of money in your pocket available to use on the needs and wants in your life. I have a video on why you should stop trying to pay less in taxes that's related to this point, and it goes into a little bit more detail, so check that out after you watch this video. So to show why this isn't the scenario you want to consider when thinking about this, we're going to have to do a little math. But it's basic elementary school math, and I'll make it super simple because I know most people hate math. So let's say that you have $10,000 available to save towards retirement, and you qualify to utilize a traditional account or a Roth account. To make the math simple, we're going to make 4 assumptions. Number 1, your tax rate is 20%. It might be 10, 12, 22, or 24, but it doesn't really matter. The math works with any percentages as long as our other assumptions remain true. Our second assumption is that your tax rate is going to be the same in retirement as it is today. So in our example, that's 20%. The third assumption, we're going to assume an 8% growth rate on investments. It could be 6, 7, could be 8, it really doesn't matter. The point is that if we're going to invest in the same investments either way, within our Roth or our traditional, our rate of return is going to be the same either way. Our fourth assumption, we will assume that the money is invested for 9 years. With these 4 assumptions, you can find an online investment calculator and check my math if you want to. You might object to some of these assumptions, and you'd have good reasons to, honestly. The most important one being that your tax rate in retirement likely will not be the same as it is today. However, by looking at this example with these specific assumptions, we'll be able to see if one account is inherently better than the other, and then we'll be able to draw out principles that will help you determine in your specific situation if a Roth or a traditional account is better in any given year. So with these assumptions, let's look at what happens. If you utilize a traditional account, you will be able to put the full $10,000 into the account because it will be pre-tax and you will not owe any taxes on that money today. However, if you use a Roth account, you will only be able to put $8,000 into the account because you will have to pay tax on the $10,000 of income, and you will only have $8,000 left over to save. One objection at this point might be that you would still put $10,000 into the Roth account instead of the $8,000. I'll cover why that objection is not valid in just a minute. So if you take $10,000 invested for 9 years at 8%, that equals $20,495. If you pull that money out and pay 20% tax on it, then the taxes paid will be $4,099, and you will have $16,396 left to spend. If instead you invested $8,000 into a Roth and it grows at 8% for 9 years, that would equal $16,396, and you don't owe any taxes on it. So that's also how much you have left to spend. For the Roth, you paid $2,000 in taxes. For the traditional, you paid $4,099 in taxes. So if you look at the taxes, you're going to probably pick the Roth because you paid less taxes. But at the end of the day, in retirement, when you pull the money out, you have exactly the same amount to spend in both scenarios. And isn't the amount you have available to spend the more important number? You can change the rate of return, the amount invested, the tax rate, and the time invested. As long as you change them equally for both options, the amount left to spend at the end of the day will always be identical. So what does this mean? This means that neither account is inherently better than the other. And that means there is no one right answer for all situations. But there are some principles we can pull out from this in order to make wise decisions based on our specific circumstances. First, if you believe your tax rate is lower now than it will be in retirement, that changes our assumptions from before, and you should likely utilize a Roth account when your current tax rate is lower than your future tax rate. You can't know this for certain, but you can have a really good idea if it's likely. If you're in the 10 or 12% tax bracket, the Roth probably is going to be the way to go. Second, if you believe your tax rate is higher now than it will be in retirement, then you should likely be utilizing a traditional account. For the third one, we need to go back to an objection I said we would address later, and that's dealing with the amount of money you're going to save. Many people say that you need to compare putting $10,000 into a traditional with putting $10,000 into a Roth, but that's going to be incorrect. If you are willing to put $10,000 into a Roth, it is still coming from money you have to pay taxes on. So by putting $10,000 into a Roth, assuming still a 20% tax rate, that means you had to earn $12,500 in order to have $10,000 left over to put it into the Roth. So in that case, we would actually have to compare $10,000 into a Roth with $12,500 into a traditional account, and the result for how much you have left to spend in retirement will still be equal under both situations at the end of the day. So our third principle is that you can actually commit more to retirement by choosing a Roth account. If your Roth contribution limit is $6,500 and you want to contribute the maximum amount possible, the traditional limit is the same $6,500. But we just saw in our math that a Roth contribution is actually worth more in today's dollars than a traditional contribution. So putting $6,500 into a Roth would be the equivalent of putting $8,125 into a traditional, assuming the same 20% tax rate we were assuming before. But you can't put that much into a traditional to make the equation equal like we did before because it exceeds the contribution limit. So you're able to put more money towards retirement by utilizing a Roth than by utilizing a traditional account. This one is a little harder to wrap your head around because you aren't actually saving the $8,125, but that is how much you are committing towards retirement. Part of it is committed as savings, part of it is committed as the tax you're paying today on that amount. To make the traditional the same amount in the end, you'd have to exceed the contribution limit, which you can't do. So if you want to commit the absolute most amount to retirement as possible today, then a Roth contribution is the way to go because, again, $6,500 in Roth is worth more than $6,500 in a traditional account. Now, $6,500 is the IRA limit. Of course, your limits are higher if you have a 401k or a SEP or some other type of retirement plan. The point here is, if the contribution limit's the same, which it is between Roth and traditional, whether it's a 401k, 403b, IRA, whatever it is, the same dollar amount as a Roth contribution is worth more than that dollar amount as a traditional contribution. Lastly, my answer to the question, should you use a Roth or a traditional account, is always that I like having both. We've discussed already that it can make sense to use one over the other in different situations. So having both open and available to contribute to is a good idea. But the more important reason for having both is in retirement. By having both, you can manage your tax rate and minimize the amount of taxes you pay over your lifetime. Consider the situation. In the years you put your money into a traditional account, you excluded that money from your taxable income, and therefore you paid less in taxes. It will then be taxable in retirement when you pull it out. However, you get to choose how much you pull out if you also have some other money available to choose from. So if the standard deduction for a married couple is $30,000, rounding up from where we are right now, then you could take $30,000 from your traditional account tax-free. You didn't pay any tax on it when you contribute it, and even though it is quote-unquote taxable income now when you take it out, the first $30,000 is going to be shielded from tax due to the standard deduction. That's amazing. It's almost too good to be true, kind of like you're double dipping on the tax savings. But that's how it works. Then you could pull from your Roth account as much as you want, completely tax-free. So if you needed $50,000 to live on, and you took $30,000 from your traditional IRA and $20,000 from your Roth, you could get all of it completely tax-free, but only if you have both types of accounts to pull from. You could, of course, have all Roth money and get $50,000 from Roth tax-free as well, but then you aren't utilizing your standard deduction at all, and you missed out on the ability to contribute money on a pre-tax basis and still take some of it out tax-free as well, missing out on that double dip benefit. So by having both, you can maximize the benefits of each and even double dip a little bit on the tax savings for some of the traditional contributions. Well, maybe $50,000 isn't enough. Let's say you need $120,000 to live on, not $50,000. Well, we already know we can get $30,000 in this example tax-free because of the standard deduction, even from a taxable account. The first two tax brackets are 10% and 12% currently. And for a married couple, 10% applies up to about $20,000 in taxable income. 12% tax bracket applies from that point to about $80,000 in taxable income. This means if you take $110,000 from your traditional account, subtract the $30,000 standard deduction, that would leave you with $80,000 in taxable income. You'd pay 10% on the first $20,000 and then 12% on the next $60,000 for a total of $7,200 in taxes. You would pull the last $10,000 that you need from your Roth account, and that's tax-free. So on $120,000 of income, you would pay $7,200 in taxes, which is an effective tax rate of just 6%. I don't know anyone who wouldn't be happy with an effective tax rate of just 6%. You'll likely have Social Security income and potential capital gains income and a number of other types of income as well. So all of that would also need to be factored into this type of tax bracket management and planning. But the point remains the same. When you have both types of accounts, you have greater flexibility to manage your taxes and effectively reduce your overall tax burden during your lifetime. Of course, a video like this can't cover all scenarios or objections. You need someone who can look at your situation and give specific advice. But this should go a long way in helping you understand why there is no difference, in one sense, but also when and why you might want to use traditional versus Roth or vice versa, and how to make that decision. Lastly, you probably want to utilize both accounts in order to maximize your lifetime tax saving potential. If you found this video helpful, please share it with others so they can experience peace of mind in this area as well. Thanks for watching.